Welcome back to the Queer Sister podcast. My name is Jasmine. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Natasha, and my pronouns are she and her.
So, I wanted to talk today about queer representation. I know we talked about that a little bit before, but I recently had a conversation with a couple of friends who identify as trans who mentioned that, the importance of trans people or people who identify as trans doing roles or with characters who identify as trans. And a lot of that was because there isn't enough representation already in order for, um, I guess, the floodgates to open and allow other people to play those roles that aren't off. There's not enough roles out there to
So basically,
already.
what Jasmine's saying is trans people are fighting for trans people to play trans roles.
Yeah, because there's
And
not enough
so,
already.
what is true representation is basically what we want to talk
Mhm.
about today.
Yeah.
The short synopsis of what she just said.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew what we were talking about, but girl, you lost me for a second.
Oh, okay. All right. So you take it away then.
No,
Since
go
you
ahead.
know
I
how
was just
to
I was just
keep things
simplifying it. Go ahead.
concise
How did
and
how did this
interesting.
conversation? What did this conversation start like with this friend of yours?
I it so it was part of actually a couple of articles that I've written through the Q26, which is a nonprofit that sort of inspired this podcast. But they were just talking about their just experience in the industry and how it's so hard already to get roles, for people who identify as trans, and the fact that there's not enough characters in, traditional media that identify as trans. Those few roles that are available, they normally go to cis, straight, white, heterosexual men. And we wanted to talk about like specific instances where the major roles with like trans characters, they were played by cis white men. You mentioned before the film The Danish Girl with
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Redmayne. You want to like
Do you want to talk about it?
yeah.
Listen, I like Eddie Raymond. I think he's like a really good actor. But when we have situations where the main character, or even if it's like a side character, it doesn't really matter. But if the character is trans, a trans woman, it's very harmful and very hurtful, detrimental to the community when you have a cis man, um, in that case, dressing up like a woman to play a trans woman who, as a trans woman, they don't dress up like a woman. They are a woman. And so when you have a man dress up like a woman and portray themselves in a movie as a woman or a TV show, and then they go and accept the award, as a cis man in a suit and with their wife on their arm and whatever, it then puts this picture in people's heads that are not familiar with the trans community, that trans women are just men dressing up. They aren't able to separate that. Yes, they're acting and great acting, whatever it is. I'm not saying it's good acting, bad acting, like whatever, that's acting. But when you separate it, they still see that it's a man playing a character, because it's almost like, what's the difference between in the movie saying that this is a trans person, the trans woman, and a straight cis man is playing it. What's the difference between that and dress up like Medea? Because then it's like, okay, Medea or Big Mama's house. I'm not saying those are problematic. We know as the audience that this is a man playing these roles. With Medea, it's not supposed to be a man dress up. It's supposed to be a woman, but it's never supposed to be a trans woman. And
Mhm.
so that's how we separate it. First of all, that's issues with Black men dressing up as Black women. There's like a lot of history in there and how it could be very harmful. But I'm not going to get on that today.
Mhm.
But that's a totally different situation where it's a man playing a girl, or like a Mrs. Doubtfire, a man playing a girl, and we know as an audience this is a man. That's why it's comical. It's a man playing this role. But
Mhm.
when you have cis straight men playing these trans roles when they're like supposed to be trans, then it's hard to to separate a Medea, Big Mama, and a Danish Girl or Dallas Buyers Club. And then
Mhm.
now it becomes a comical playing thing. It's like, well, now it's a joke, or like it's a, you know what I mean? Like when you're associating them together, it's like a joke to be trans. It could be harmful because then, people who are trans women, because this is specifically trans women I'm talking about right now, but trans women, they face a lot of violence and a lot of things because, uh, straight guys are attracted to women.
Mm-hmm.
That's fact. I'm not saying anything else. Well, straight guys are attracted to women. So some people could be, everybody has their own preference. So it is inevitable for some straight guys to be attracted to trans women because they are women. But when we have that stereotype that it's a man dressing up like a girl, that they're not really women, and a guy is attracted to them and finds out that they're trans, now we're putting them in harm. Now we're putting them in a situation that's not safe. And so when we have those situations, so a little thing like, oh yeah, Eddie's a good, actor and he was great for the part. I don't know, I didn't watch the movie. But when we do that and we're like, oh, well, it's just like, get over it. It's just, they picked whoever's the best. But all that, those steps, all those different things now is perpetuating, or it's, leading to the violence that's already prevalent in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if like Jasmine was saying before, as I'm rambling, Jasmine was saying before, like there's not a lot of roles. If there was like thousands of trans roles, then I think people would be more lenient. But because there isn't, and I'm not saying it's right to be lenient, but I'm saying because there isn't, there's no room for leniency. There's no room for leniency. And if we made every movie next year a trans story, maybe we would have leniency of, this person's not trans, like, but because we don't have that, it's a non-issue. Like we can't argue that, oh, it's just an actor, it's just acting when it comes to trans issues, because it directly like supports or relates or whatever to violence. And I was talking to Jasmine about this, like, what's the difference of, okay, trans people and like gay representation, or disability representation, or blind, like, blind people or whatever, like where's our line? There might not be uh immediate or direct violence coming from those other communities like trans community.
That part.
And I see a lot of people say like, oh, well, gay roles, only gay people should play gay roles. Which, I mean, I can see how you're fighting for that, because people are like, well, if you're going to fight for the trans community, you should fight for the gay community. But I want to say there's a difference in that, because, first of all, with my experience of watching gay media, if we gatekeep gay roles strictly for gay people, we are going to miss out on a lot of great acting things. Not saying that, let me clarify, not saying that gay people can't act. I ain't saying that. But there's so many shows and movies that I have seen, mostly shows because they play gay character for a long period of time, where the actor is assumed, like we assume that they're straight, they're in a straight relationship or whatever, and they never came out or whatever, and we're like, why are they playing this gay role? They should have picked somebody. Like the only people on their head, in their mind is Kristen Stewart. They can't even think of anybody else. But anyways, so they get all upset about 2 or 3 seasons to the show. What happens? That actor comes out as bi. I'm not saying that everyone that plays those characters are queer in some way, but I can name three in the last couple of years that have come out as bi. Lily, what's her name? Lily from Riverdale. She came out as bi. Did she? She wasn't. Her character's not queer in it, but her character kisses the girl. That's how they queerbaited us in that first episode. They kiss in the first episode of I think it's his first episode. Anyways, so Lily, the girl from Supergirl, the girl who played Lexi in Grey's Anatomy, her character comes out in season 2 of Supergirl. I stopped watching Supergirl. I can't listen. I'm not about queerbaiting, but the queerbait in that show was absolutely astronomical. I cannot get through it. I cannot. Like, if anybody watches Supergirl, I'm telling you, it's astronomically, like, there's no reason that those girls shouldn't be together. That's another situation. But okay, so the girl who plays Alex
Mm-hmm.
Lexi Gray, um, she came out as bi after a couple seasons of playing it. She's like, through this character, I realized. Um, the girl from Orange is the New Black, the lead girl, she came out as bi, or yeah, I think she's bi. I don't know. She came out after the show. The writer on Orange is the New Black fell in love with Samir Wiley through the writing of the show. You know what I mean? So you can't gatekeep a queer representation just for queer people because we actually don't know. Everybody's on a spectrum, and I think that we have so many good performances from what we presume as we that we know as or assume as straight people. I ain't gonna ever tell Julianne Moore to stop playing a gay role. I ain't ever gonna say Kate Blanchett don't play a gay role because they be playing their butts off. You know what I'm saying? They be playing it, and as we know, they're straight, but we don't really know. Rachel Weisz,
Mm-hmm.
she's have you seen that girl interview when she was doing the? Not I was gonna say Disturbia. What is that dang movie with the?
Oh,
She was Jewish
oh,
girl and
yeah.
she spit in her mouth. Only thing I remember. Lord Jesus. Honestly, that was a little too much for me. I don't let nobody spitting on in my
Oh
mouth.
my.
Anyways, if you haven't seen it. But anyways, it was Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams in the movie. So you had me in there. I was in that theater. But if you see the interviews going around, she's like, "Yeah, I did all my research on this. On some, she did some sapphic research. That girl felt. I was like, damn, she gay, but she just was doing research. Like we love those type of allies. So like, I'm not gonna ever gatekeep that. The same thing with I don't know, like because like deaf roles they're rare. Like how
Mhm.
trans roles are rare. I rather you get a deaf actor.
Mhm.
I feel like we're getting a little bit more gay characters, so I think that's why. But also, like I said, you can't tell by looking at someone if they're gay or what their sexuality is. But I feel like deaf actors, I think that they should be deaf. I think the one thing that I liked with the what's it called Switched at Birth, the
Mhm.
girl wasn't deaf, but she knows she has
Use
that
their
condition
strength.
where in later in life she's gonna lose her hearing, but also she knew how to imitate the voice because her dad and her brother or whatever are all deaf.
I did want to say really quickly that, and I mentioned it before, that as far as trans representation goes, in a world where there's not enough trans representation already, or we're in a world where we already think that people who are trans are just playing dress up,
Hmm.
it's problematic to have people playing dress up as a trans person. It Once that changes, then full well, yeah, they should definitely be able to open it up to other people who don't identify as such. So.
Yeah. So like I was saying with like deaf representation, there's not a lot of roles. So I think that they should look at only deaf people. Blind representation, I mean, I don't really see a lot of roles for them. So sure, then they should be playing those roles. But I'm not in those communities, so I'm not saying I'm not fighting for them. That's their issue of like if they have a problem with it, if they're okay with it, then like sure, who am I to say whatever? So my thing is the only thing with it is the queer representation or the gay representation that we can't gatekeep it for only out actors is what
Mhm.
I'm saying. But everything else that is so limited, I think that we need to try to strive for representation because a lot of these casting directors won't even look for those people because you can even imagine just people of color like the story in the book they're supposed to be they say dark skin or brown skin and then they don't even look for black people,
Yeah.
so it starts with the casting and the representation with that they don't usually even look for that community, and so they need to start looking for that community, um, and find the best in that community. There's so many new trans actors out there, non-binary or trans women or trans men that are actors out there that want roles. So I think that's silly. Like I was talking to you before, that movie with Elle Fanning. It
Mhm.
started off as Ray. They called it Ray, but people had such offense to it because Elle Fanning is a cis girl playing a trans man in it or a trans boy, and she's supposed to be transitioning. So she comes out to her mom and grandma or whatever, and she transitions throughout the movie. People had such a big it was uproar.
Yeah.
Because I had already seen the trailers for it and it said Ray, and then all of a sudden they just kind of halted it, like the release, changed the name to Three Generations. So if you want to see it, it's called Three Generations. I actually don't know the ending, like if it was like like trigger warnings or anything like that. So I can't tell you if it's like a good movie. I remember watching it. But yeah, they changed it 3 generations, I think, to kind of throw people off because it was
Mhm.
kind of tainted with the name Ray. But people had a problem. Like, there's so many trans actors that are in their transition didn't take testosterone. So like, if you want somebody that's like not super muscular or masculine or whatever, there's a spectrum of trans people that you could have
Yes.
gotten. They could have got a non-binary person or somebody that did not take T to play that role that still looks feminine in the face or in the body for that role. Like,
Mhm.
there's no excuse to say, oh, well, we want in the beginning them to look like presenting like a woman and have that transition. There's so many people that can fit that aesthetic that you're looking for in the movie. So let's not limit it and say like, okay, um, only cis people were like, that's the issue with it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you said that. There's no excuse
Mm-hmm.
because we should be diversifying, our range of actors. There's plenty of them out there
Yeah.
where everybody's already complaining about the same, stories being done, the same, actors being showed on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
There is no excuse for them to, shake it up a bit. Them saying that they don't know anybody. Well, there's whole organizations out there, Q26 included, where we're putting people out there. Like,
Yeah.
there's
It's not the '90s anymore. We love the whatever boys don't cry, Hillary Swank, but we don't need that
we don't
anymore.
need it
We
anymore.
don't need that. Like, that was something that, because there was no trans representation, that if you ask a lot of trans people from that era, or because I actually haven't seen it, but the trans people from that era, that was like their representation. That was like, that made them feel like them. Like the same thing with L Word, with the what's his name, Max. Like, that was their representation. So, but we can do so much better now. So let's not limit ourselves to a Hillary Swank. No, I love what's her name, with $30 million baby or whatever, baby doll, whatever she did. I like that movie. She's good. I love her in that. I was gonna say Hidden Teachers, in the Freedom Riders. I loved her in that one.
Wow.
Playing a little white savior in that movie. I loved it. You listen, no shade to her. I don't know Miss Swank. Um, but we don't need Miss Swank in these type of roles anymore. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there was like a big role where there was um like a big cis actor that did that, but I can't think of it right now. I don't know why I want to say Alexis Bledel, but I know she didn't. Alexis Bledel could play a gay character. I ain't ever gonna take a gay character role from her. Watch Handmaid's Tale, y'all. I mean, if it's violent, so if
Yeah,
you got a lot
trigger
of
warning for sure.
abuse
Yeah.
in your history, it probably ain't good for you. But that girl played a gay character. Samira Wiley's in it. She played a little gay character herself. I love Samira. Anyways, but what was I talking about? Oh, Hillary, Miss Swank. Where's she been at? I
I have
haven't
no
seen her in
idea.
not one movie since Million Dollar. No, since Freedom Rider. They put Freedom Rider every damn weekend on FTV.
Stop.
I haven't seen her not one more movie since then. She
I'm sure she's done something else. I don't know.
name one. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
There you go. Oh, all right. Well, I think those are good points made. Definitely diversify your actors. Make sure that you're including stories from people of color, from queer people of color, just, disabled people. Like, we're done with the same exact actor and actress, playing the same roles over and over again. It's time to switch it up. So,
Yes.
all right, yeah. Thank you so much for listening to the Queer Sister podcast. My name is Jasmine again.
And I'm Natasha. Sorry.
Okay, bye.
Bye.